recording. Hello, patrons. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. Oh,
What's up,
God.
people?
I gotta refix everything. I just hate everything. Okay.
I still think one of the most diabolical things is Twitch not letting ads run when you switch off the page.
Yeah, that's
Like
messed up.
is
That's seriously messed up.
that will never just get okay with me. I just like you're still getting credit for the ad running whether I'm in front of it or not. Like
Right?
so why should I have to sit here for the whole like 30 seconds and let it run out?
Because their advertisers would not be okay with that, bro.
But that's literally what everybody else does.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you what they would say.
So now when I have Twitch up, I have to like let me pull a tab out so it has its own separate thing and it's always up, and then I don't have to worry about it.
Right. And then 420 blaze it.
Oh, you can't read Twitter without making an account anymore?
Yeah, it's really
Seriously?
bad.
Oh,
You can't
Oh.
read replies.
oh wow.
Really?
It's
That's
Yeah.
messed up.
So like if I
Pretty-
just see
pretty
something
stupid.
funny and I just like text it to somebody, can they not watch it if they don't have a Twitter account?
I think so.
I think
Oh,
that is
that's terrible.
correct. Yeah, yeah. It is awful.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Good job, Elon. Way to do it, buddy.
Oh, and other news, I found out apparently YouTube is fast tracking policies to allow people to, I guess, quickly do takedowns or request takedowns of any content that's using AI to replicate them or something of their brand or whatever, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's
that's good.
nice.
I mean, on the one hand, like cool that they're fast tracking it and you check with the lawyers, make it all good. But then the other part is it kind of sucks that it's in a situation that you have to fast track it
Yeah.
so we can do it.
Yeah, it's,
Hey,
Yeah.
it's
HDMZ.
rough.
HDMZ, serious question. Are you going to be in Vegas? I think that's the next big magic thing I'm going to.
Ruben, sit like how you would during the show because I got to fix all my shit
Like-
again.
I do. I want to do something. I want to take you out to dinner or buy you a drink or whatever because I think you support more Magic content creators
It's true.
than probably anyone else. I mean, like legit, like-
HD came with Nerd Girl, supported the whole time she was here, and continues to support both Nerd Girl and us,
Yeah.
and is just an excellent member of the Magic community. Excited that he's with us. They're with us.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
don't know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I'll pop into people's streams and I keep like a bucket of bits that I can just, hey, have a good stream, and I just give them like 100 bits or whatever because it's just $1, whatever. But like that's my level to just like, hey, give back because I'm checking out your stream, or you're new and you're trying hard or whatever.
Yeah.
But HMZ, I mean, like you're fully subscribed to several channels, to my understanding. So credit to you for sure.
Definitely.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Hated that. Cool. As I had to read.
Yeah, I've just accepted that's part of my content journey now. It's just like if something updates, I gotta check everything because I already know there's going to be a problem.
Yep. Oh god, this is gonna fuck up. Oh god, I hate everything. This is so annoying.
It's all right. You have time to fix it.
Yeah, I'll fix it. I tell you what, I've made a terrible goddamn mistake. We talked about this already, but holy shit. Why do I still have Civilization 6 installed?
Bruh, like we talked about it last week, and I
Uh,
almost downloaded it, and I was like, man, I got work to do. I can't. I can't.
I
But
played
I
it
started
literally
to.
until 9:55 Eastern tonight. I was like,
Yep.
I'm Germany, and I'm very military based, and they tried to stop me for 30 turns, but they couldn't. So I said,
Yep.
fuck y'all. I got some sweet military shit, and it's just a whole thing. I'm like 300 turns in. I'm like, god damn it. Oh, why did I do that to myself?
I thought about it. I was close. I almost
So-
did, and I was like, man, I can't. I already know what this rabbit hole. I've done it on I think
So-
Civ 4 was the last one I played a bunch of, and I was like, I can't, man.
It's
I already
so
know
good.
better.
It's so good. Oh god, I can't.
That's exactly it. I got time for one more turn.
Just
And then one turn ends up being 15 turns, and you're just
Bruh.
like, nah.
And if those who've never played Civ and you've played Stardew Valley, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That one
Yeah,
more
same
day,
thing.
one
Yep,
more day
same
in Stardew.
thing.
You wake up and you're like, oh, shit, I gotta go get to the chickens, and then you're talking to the cows, and then you pet
Yep.
your cat, and you're watering the so and so's. You just might as well go ahead and finish the day. You've already started it. You know what I mean? Like, bruh, Jesus Christ. Oh, mistakes were made, man. I love that
No,
stupid
that's
game.
real.
Ever since
But
back in the day, man.
the game still has a bunch of people playing it. It's highly rated, so you're not
Yeah.
alone. You're not alone.
Yeah, ever since I mean, we're talking, dude. I was playing Civ on DOS and installing it on the
Oh,
school
same,
computers back in the
same.
'90s and shit, man.
Actually, I say that. I don't think I played Civ until it was on the 3.5s. I don't think I played it when it was on like the stack of 5.25s.
Yeah, I think maybe I played Civ 2. It was super early. It was on 3.5s though. That I
Yeah,
recall.
that's the one. I think I played 2 and 3 on the hard 3.5s. Because even on the 3.5s, I think it was still like 6 discs to load the whole thing or something.
Stacko, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, we passed.
I know we
this
sound like
around.
old people to people in the chat. Like we had to load our game on 6 discs to be able to play it. But
Look, man, I got time out of class, and we're talking for like a week or two. I can't remember, but in my high school, to take the 20 something 3.5 inch floppies to install Windows 95
Yep.
on all the computers, I think it was. This was like, literally just pushing them into post DOS era. And it took like 45 minutes to an hour to install one thing every, one computer from 0 to your 100%, and God forbid if one of the floppies was bad. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, like that's the worst.
Because you wouldn't find out until 30, 45 minutes in the process.
Yep.
And it could have been some file that they tried to copy before. It wasn't always the one that was like in the drive. It might have been something different you didn't even know. Bruh. Holy shit. We dealt with some bullshit back in the day, y'all. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it says that Civ averages like 45,000 players or whatever at a time, and peaks
That
in a
sounds about
24-hour
right.
period around 70,000. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of players playing it right now. Civ 6 anyway.
Yeah.
I was surprised though to see that like Civ 5 still has a community still out and about. Like people haven't completely shifted over. They're still playing the previous one.
I mean, God bless them. There's people still out there playing, Guild Wars and out there playing CS Source, and the old schoolers are going to old school no matter what you do, right?
Yep, that is
Oh.
absolutely true.
Oh God. Okay, so Firefox, let's get you up and running. All right, Firefox is fine. All right, don't make it weird. They did something with the stupid Zoom client that it doesn't like capture the right way or the same way it used to, which is super fun. Just let you know that's super duper fun. But yeah, man,
There's
you
a
gotta be
version
careful.
of RuneScape apparently just called Old School RuneScape is a thing.
I believe it.
That's funny. But apparently, like, Guild Wars still has people out there playing it. Like,
I believe that
this
as
is
well.
hilarious. Like, games I haven't even thought about in ages. Now, okay, EVE Online has always had a community of a lot. Like, I mean, like 10 million people or something. And
EVE Online is spreadsheets the game.
yeah, that game, I had a friend trying to explain it to me, and it's like, you're accounting for, like, travel and fuel and gold and, like, trying to fight off raiders, and you're trying to make these, I don't know what you call them, like clans, so you have like platoons of ships, and like there's just so much going on that I'm like, I can't. Like I need games that I can at least play casually if I want to. I felt like EVE, there's no casual level. Like you're either all in or you're not.
It makes for some really incredible stories, though. Like,
Oh, sure.
because of all the crazy shit they get into or whatever. And it's like, damn, y'all, like, how much real world money value did you just spew? And there was like a whole thing where like some clan usurped another, and there was a giant battle, and like hundreds of millions of dollars or something were fucking destroyed. It's a lot.
Oh yeah, and people are way invested, and I get it, but I just like it's the whole reason I probably won't ever play any of the Elden Ring games. Right? I can't play those on a casual level. I have to be all in, trying to grind, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm not that type of gamer.
Yeah, I saw a report of like some mom that was really unhappy that she couldn't play Elden Ring, and I'm like, you're a mom. Fuck you doing? No, you don't get to play Elden Ring. That's part of what you give up as a parent, is you don't always get to play the really hard ass core games anymore.
This is what I've told you about Elden Ring. Like, I think it would benefit the company to have, well, one, being able to let you pause the game, but like, whatever. But have different modes. That if you want to play crazy hard mode, cool. If you want to play casual mode to just see the story, cool.
Hold on a
But
second. You can't pause the game?
no, no, no. There is no pausing in Elden Ring, sir.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Holy shit, I
Like,
didn't know that.
yeah, you just got to grind it out. If you're in a big battle and like you got to pee or like the delivery guys here, like you got to make a life decision. Like that's just the way it is.
No shit. That's wild.
Yeah,
You
that game's
can't-
serious.
Huh.
But like I also get that there is a group of gamers that like that, right? So if they're marketing to that group, then cool. I'm just not part of the group, like, but as a company, there is a giant sector of money you're not getting because people like me would buy it in a heartbeat, but I'm just not because I know what I'd be signing up for.
Yeah, I have, like, every time I've even gotten close to a Souls-like whatever, I'll just go watch somebody play it, and I'll go, you know what? That is not what I really want out of a game, I just don't. I like sim stuff. I like some action adventure stuff. I like a Zelda and a Horizon. Was fun. The dinosaurs as robots thing was cool.
Whoa, there was an Eve battle where over 1 million ships got destroyed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wish I could have seen that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and like and things like the frame rates getting to like 2 frames a second or whatever.
Well,
'cause
yeah,
it's
it has
trying
to
do the thing, and it's just a whole, and like time works differently based on the server activity or whatever.
That's the part I had somebody try to explain to me.
Really weird. Time works differently between people because it's got to sync.
Yeah, and the players that know that, like, they queue up certain jobs or things depending on where they're at, and I was like, I can't.
Spreadsheets.
That's a lot.
Spreadsheets the game, man. Phoebes. Oh, there's the Phoebe tab.
Every game is a turn-based game if the server's slow enough.
It's true.
Yeah, I guess so.
Evan, we need the document.
Oh, we need the document. Oh, I finally fixed all the tech stuff. I got the cat in there. Let's get the doc going, shall we? Thank you so much to Joe, as always, for the roundup. You are wonderful. We appreciate you.
Man, I was going through this list of old school MMOs to see what was still up, and I realized there's about at least 50 titles I have never heard of.
Isn't City of Heroes still up? Didn't they like community manage that now?
Champions Online, yeah, because it changed over that. But it's, I think, like 50 to 70,000 people still active.
That was a pretty neat game. I played that for a hot minute. We're talking like maybe mid 2000s or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it was fun, for what it was.
The thing that's disappointing is the thing they did better than anybody else was the character creator. Like literally, like if you wanted antenna, a halo, whatever, all the way down to your boots having like 50 different options or whatever. And like you could be like the Green Lantern and color your powers to match your suit and like all kinds of stuff. And nobody adopted that in future RPGs. I'm just like, that's so sad. It would be cool if you had those options. Because the cool part was like every single character was unique, right? You didn't see anybody that looked the same unless they purposely designed them to look the same.
Right.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that was super rad. I enjoyed that, and like the missions were kind of cute. As with all MMOs, they will get repetitive.
Oh yeah.
But what are you gonna do? It's interesting to me when they have things like people who work in things like for people who work for Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red or whatever, and they have like narrative quest builders or whatever. People who make quests, and I'm like, it's just it's so hard to make a quest that isn't a fetch quest, honestly.
Yeah, it's not a fetch quest or an escort mission or there's like 4 or 5 archetypes that it kind of is this.
Right, fetch quests in MMOs or a lot of action RPGs are just, shit. They are the default. Like, what I mean? They are.
Yeah.
They're, I don't know. It's kind of meh, and I don't know. It's like kicker. You know what I mean? Like every mechanic is kind of a kicker. Most of those quests are just fetch quests.
I will say one thing I think Baldur's Gate 3 at least gets right is there's a lot of stuff that's just like carrying you to the next point of the story.
Yeah.
There's like, oh, go find this thing, meet this person. Like you don't necessarily, there's a few, but not many where you have to go back and check in with somebody or whatever. You're just kind of doing the things and then getting rewarded to continue down the path, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
I still haven't played Diablo 4
way.
either, by the way. Like I need to play that.
That's not the one with the wild transactions, right? That was the mobile version.
Yeah, that was the mobile one.
Yeah, I feel sad for the people who dump money in that, honestly.
Yeah, Diablo 4 looks sweet, but again, I've just been busy, and I'm like, I can only dedicate to 1 or 2 games at a time.
I mean, speaking of Diablo 4, a game that's very like it is Grim Dawn, and that just had a giant update. If you've never played Grim Dawn, it's by the people who love Diablo, but they were tired of Blizzard shit, and so they went and made like an awesome Diablo clone, and it's fucking great. So
Okay.
I've played it. I've played it with friends, multiplayer. It's awesome. I've played through the story multiple times. Like, it's super enjoyable, and they just did a goddamn boatload of changes to like everything. Because that's what they do. They don't stop tinkering, and that's what's so fun about that game. If you want to check it out, but it's one of those, it's Diablo. You got the armor sets and stuff that give you all the cool bonuses, and there's a bunch of different classes, and you can multi-class, and it's a whole thing. But yeah, super fun. Highly
Also, credit to World of Warcraft, still finding ways to stay relevant. Because man,
still hanging out.
what are they, like 20 years old at this point or something? Like, Warcraft's had a hell of a run. Though now I have to say, like, I can't play. Like, I've watched some friends play Warcraft, and now there's so many random like add-ons and widgets you can get or whatever that like their screen has stuff all down either side, and like everything's hotkeyed, and I'm like, y'all are playing a different game. I'm out. Like,
and they've got everything like to launchers or whatever, to
yeah,
macros and all this other shit. And you're like, wow, that's incredible.
Again, I'm just running around wanting to smash stuff and fill some story holes or whatever. Like, that's what I'm about. I don't need a whole like command center to be able to just battle one big bad.
Yeah, I got to like level 25 or 30 or something. Anyway, whatever whatever level it was that you had to pair up with at least 2 or 3 other players to like do something or progress or whatever. You just couldn't do it by yourself. Like, there was just, I tried. You can't. You need help. And as a person who liked to solo game and not have to worry about people's schedules and all this other garbage, you know what I mean? Like, it just was a barrier I couldn't get across. And again, maybe they've gotten around it all these years later, but way back in the day when it first showed up, it was like, okay, now play with your friends. And I'm like, my friends got jobs and lives, and we can't. And, WoW already had a bad reputation like 3 to 6 months after it was released. So, just a
Yeah, see, I remember
thing.
on City of Heroes when there was like a spot in town where if people wanted to just find people and pair up, like you just run by this area and it's like, hey, I'm
Scrap
going to do
people.
this mission. Who still needs to check this off? It's like, oh, I need to go do that one. Like, great, let's go.
I didn't see this. The end of foil redemption sets. Have you seen this?
I saw that. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Not to mention, the price increase for the non-foil is going up to $45 per set, which is interesting.
There's a point where, and I've wondered this even when I was there, because of the cost of printing the extra and then like housing them and just keeping them on hand for some amount of time and whatever. Like, I was always curious if it was worth the cost of putting it with the number that get redeemed, because it's not all that many really. And I was just like, that might be the reason. They're just like, hey, if this is just a break-even deal or worse, there's really no point in us doing this.
Interesting. And they're looking at changing the way that digital foils show up on Arena or on online. Like, Magic Online is such a weird program. It is literally like 2002, still chugging 22 years
absolutely.
later, and it's like, holy shit, we've put so much lipstick on a pig. It's like when you paint the same wall, like 12 times, and there's just like layers on layers on layers of like things that you've been doing to it. And now you can just slice down into layers of Magic Online and see the 7 different ways they used to matchmake and show stuff and have avatars and have animations, and like, Jesus Christ. It's
a point.
incredible.
The only thing they can do now would be to just launch a new client, because it's literally just so much code on top of code on top of code that like,
yeah, I mean, the
you
spaghetti,
can't really upgrade that much at this point.
Yeah, I mean, but as I feel like at least I feel like I learned by reading a lot of smart people way back in the day, which is, it always sounds like a good idea, but it never works out that way. And sometimes it can take longer to try a new client because you're trying to keep the old one running. And then the issues from the old one are not fixed in the same way as the new one. And then you have this parallel development, and God knows how long that takes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where who tried to do that? I think it was Netscape or something. This is obviously a long time ago, but they were just like, we're going to rebuild from the ground up because this old legacy code is too much bullshit, and it just put them in the dirt. Like they just
it's just too expensive.
Like, so that's why you see Magic Online just fucking going forever, even because it's got that shit in there, and most of it works. Like 98+% of all that shit just works, which is. I think a lot of times some of the developers, I can only imagine, just like, I'm just glad that works.
Yep.
I don't know why that shit works, but it does. Because that's a hell of a code base to work on, let me tell you.
MTGO said there was a Final Fantasy 11 boss that took 24 hours to beat. That's terrible.
I hate everything about what you just said there.
Exactly.
Really dislike that. Yeah, not great. But okay. Yeah. So we had a preview panel that was kind of rad. That showed all sorts of weird stuff. Everyone is like losing their shit because it's got some televisions in it, and it's like, and maybe like a smartphone-esque something or other. I don't know, some sort of like tablet or something they can use digitally. Whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, their Magic is dying. It's over. And I'm like, give me a fucking break. Magic's died so many fucking times, it's ridiculous.
I'm telling you, when we got rid of damage on the stack, Magic was dead. When artifacts weren't brown anymore, Magic was dead.
Yeah,
like
flip cards, remember the double face cards?
Yep,
that was
dumb. That was going to be the end of Magic.
Like checklist cards are never going to work, like ever.
Dude, one of my favorite pastimes used to be on the MTG, I think it was Salvation boards, where I would go on and I would find the people that are talking about, that's it, I'm selling myself, I'm gonna quit. And then they would show up again bitching about something. So then I'd go back and I'd necro their whole thing and like copy paste. I actually got reprimanded by the moderators after a while for doing that.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, because Kamigawa already had Neon Dynasty, they were already in the future with magical electricity or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was fucking rad. Everyone loved that shit. I'm like, I don't know, just so weird. I didn't expect that kind of pushback, but I have seen it from those who are just like, Magic is traditional fantasy. And I'm like, we just did a cowboy plane.
Exactly.
What I mean? Not to mention the lore around Duskmourn is actually like fucking awesome. Like, have you read this? Where like the whole house becomes a plane because it's a demon stuck on it, and like,
that's cool.
And like spirits are made because like it's just basically gobbled up the entire plane, so it's just the house, and the spirits get like squeezed out through the walls, like through the slats in the walls to come in, and like it's all sorts of weird shit. Absolutely fucking awesome.
Very cool.
This is way cool because like as I've been saying for those who've hung out. Like, I've gotten a vibe that it was more Ghostbusters, than actual horror movie.
Yeah.
But no, I think they're going there, and they're putting some pretty weird, freaky shit in there. And I love it. I think it's awesome.
People gave Kamigawa a pass just because it's Japanese aesthetic and,
and
Magic nerds and anime or whatever. Like, it's just what it is.
Right. And they're like, well, televisions are the bridge too far. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Also, 50 months from Chef. Hey, thank you.
Oh, sick. Thank you.
Amazing.
You are wonderful, and we appreciate you. Because, they're here to see us whine and complain. Elena Danner's take a number system is actually incredible. I've never seen anything like it. And we should have by now, quite frankly.
What is that?
This is where you can...
Like a deli checkout counter?
Kind of. She gives you basically a business card and they circle an hour. Hour 0 through hour 9. And, they say you must, don't lose this card. You must bring this card with you to get signatures. And so that way you don't have to stand in line for 8 hours. You just show up on the hour that you've got it selected and so on and so forth. So I was like, wow, that's fucking rad. Because I was there at GP New Jersey when we had John Avon, and the line was ridiculous. The line was like 2.5-ish hours, 3-ish hours long, depending. And multiple people did nothing all weekend but go through that line as many times as they could every day.
Let me tell you a story about Magic dying. See, there was this event called MagicCon Chicago, and it had like 50 artists there. Artists that were excited because they never have a line had lines. Like, literally in the first hour and a half, lines were capped for the day on some artists, right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
with 50 artists there. Like everybody was like almost every artist has already gotten to the point that they bring like an assistant or a handler or whatever just to handle sales and whatnot while they're signing stuff because it's like that busy at these Magic events. Like that's why when people say, "Oh, Magic's dying," whatever. It's like you don't get people waiting in lines for hours for a pile of different artists with the game dying. Like that's not a thing. Hell, not just that. People have paid $80 to whatever the VIP things are, like $1,000 to be there for the weekend. You know, on top of going and buying all this stuff from the artist.
It's funny when you look at other communities because, for example, basically they're not printing enough. They're not going to print enough. Feelings for Lorcana have basically gone. Like you can find Lorcana, you can find a lot of Lorcana, and mostly you can find a lot of the older like first sets forward Lorcana stuff. It's not that crazy rare like it used to be. And so because that hype has kind of died and there's people aren't punching each other at Kmart or whatever, or that doesn't exist, Target. But regardless, they're just like, wow, is Lorcana in trouble because I can buy a booster pack now in Walmart? It's like, no, dude. They found the market cap and they finally printed to it. That took a while, and shit. Magic has so far to like fall. I mean, just look at the Aftermath, right? Complete fucking disaster. Huge, losses everywhere. No one really liked it. Distributors hated it. Stores hated it. Players hated it.
And by the end of the year, it didn't even matter.
Was a blip on the radar. A low blip, but was a blip on the radar. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah,
it's just Murs at Karlov Manor. Not a good set. Every set thereafter this year has proven that wasn't a great set. It's not really going to matter that much. It's
not going to matter.
And if anything, Assassin's Creed's doing okay. It's not killing it, but it's doing okay, And
that's why I tell people like some decisions we may not like, some sets we may not like, some structures we may not agree with. But people keep buying more and more stuff. Like I mean, it just is what it is. Like we don't have to agree, we don't even have to like it, but at the end of the day, numbers are numbers, man, and numbers don't lie.
Yeah. In the Aftermath numbers, people stopped buying, and they were like, "Oh shit, we need to stop that." that's terrible.
Yeah,
and they did, as it turns out. So, goodness. All right, adding that because of course Kai wins on Sunday. That's what Kai does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the God, that fucking Pro Tour was a disaster. Like that
was
Pro
it?
Tour.
It was dominated by one deck. Does that mean that
it wasn't just dominated, bruh? This deck was bigger than Hogak. It was bigger than Affinity. It was. I need to go back and look.
I have a feeling an even stronger opinion that Modern Horizons 3 dominated.
Oh yeah, we're at this point because Modern is Modern Horizons constructed. Like we need to just accept that. Like that's
because if you look at the other decks, it was still like Necro Dominance, Eldrazi stuff, heavily influenced by the latest set.
And here's the thing that was also, wild is that those giant, the Affinity decks, the Fairies decks, Hogak, whatever, when they were just, oh my God, huge and everyone played them and the biggest part of the metagame, they didn't win the event.
Right.
Dude, that bird won everything, and it was in the finals. The finals is a little over an hour, including 4 games out of 5 and the award ceremony. It's a joke. I'm sorry. So coverage did the best they could. Obviously, professionals, they're great at what they do. I'm not, harping on that. I'm saying the actual event itself, when it has a broken card and a broken deck that is no fun to watch and not very skill-based, it's literally... do you got it? Do I have it?
You're going to have a tough time telling me that it's not skill-based.
I mean,
because the best player in the tournament won the tournament.
Yes. And what I'm saying is, like, obviously they're skill-based in, like, things like mulliganing, right? And sideboarding, knowing what hands to keep, and all that shit. I mean, there's literally nothing more goddamn Pro Tour Magic player I've ever seen than them going, like, if you've got Thassa's Oracle in your deck, you're playing with training wheels. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like, literally, I think it was Ely Cassis. It was like, if you're playing with Thassa's Oracle, you don't understand the loops yet. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't handle all this pro-level Magic play.
I mean, but we are also, like I said, the fact that Top 8 covered with Modern Horizons 3 cards, I think is a real issue. The other
mean, Wizards don't care. It's selling like fucking crazy.
Oh, of course. But also from the player perspective, like every one of those sets has had stuff banned now. Because I mean, it's only a matter of time. It's going to be
Nadu is not
Nadu,
look,
possibly something else, but at least Nadu.
If they start with banning the core guy and Shuko, how many fucking times have we been here? Even back in the day, even back in Necropotence, back in Ice Age, they didn't ban Necro immediately. Yeah. They banned shit around it. They didn't ban Survival immediately.
Ban
they banned shit around.
Nadu will maintain its value through Commander.
Yeah,
some of its value through Commander.
Yeah.
It's just.
But I think also players as a whole don't want to deal with Nadu. Like it's one of those ones like yes, it's a new card, but I think enough people are just on board of like, yeah, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now the other argument's already become if you get rid of Nadu, are the Necro Dominance decks too good?
Right.
So like that's a whole other.
That'll be right.
That's
The metagame will
for another day.
Yeah, the metagame will shift. Otherwise, you're going to have Lightning Greaves. That's going to be the hot new thing to find, however they find it. And I just. Like, that card is not good. That card isn't fun to watch. That card isn't very fun to play. It's hard as hell to keep up with because you got that stupid 0-1-2 card.
You got so many tracking.
It was ridiculous. It was fucking
tracking
ridiculous.
It is kind of a nightmare.
And then a second Nadu comes out and resets fucking everything. And there was multiple times in the Pro Tour, at least once where, like, you know, they had played a, what was the green one that loses you the game? The green pact?
Summoner's Pact.
Summoner's Pact.
Yeah.
Someone played a Summoner's Pact at some fucking point in the last turn, and they did 87 other things and just fucking forgot about it. And like they fixed it or whatever, but like holy shit, dude, like you just can't keep up with anything when everything's going off all the time. And it's, I don't know, man. What the hell were they thinking? It's always
Oh my god. I did see chat on like 4 different occasions yelling and retweeting and like they were completely wrong. Like
of course.
And I remember because there's one of them was a Summoner's Pact. And they're like, "Oh, you didn't pay for Pact." And it's like all that's in the chat. And some people are like, "Guys, that card got discarded. It got exiled. It's not. They never even cast it. Like you know, like. But it's just like, there's so much going on. People don't even remember what the last turn was.
You know, it's always with the Modern Horizon set, with the design certainly. You know, they sometimes they just don't know what's too good. They always know what's good, but they don't know what's too good necessarily. And Hogak was probably, you know, you could pay for its colored mana with Convoke or whatever. Because remember, they banned Bridge, and then they said Bridge wasn't even necessary, shit like that. They're going to ban Shuko, and they're going to like Shuko wasn't even that much, you know, even wasn't even that necessary because it's like you got
you just find something else and you slow the deck down by like a turn or whatever. Yeah, like okay.
You gotta stop acting like the engine's going to get fixed if you just get the right gasoline for it. Like it's not a fair engine. You gotta let it go, and that shit's messed up. Card games. Oh yeah, the card games at Olympic Trials is fun. You want to make a joke about that, Ruben?
What was that?
The card games at the Olympic Trials.
Oh,
like
sure.
The Yu-Gi-Oh. The guy had the Yu-Gi-Oh like.
Yeah. I can get the.
You know.
There was 2 guys. Oh, what sport was it?
Well, they were playing Magic, right? Or talking about Magic.
Yeah, they were talking about Magic,
and the
which
other
is
guy
funny
had
because
the
like
Exodia and like other shit from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Because the other athletes like walk by them and there's like. Yeah. What are they even talking about? You know, and they're going, "Oh yeah, I have like 6 decks or whatever, and I just didn't bring them with me." And like, "Oh man, I've been playing such and such," and I'm like, "Oh, they're actually like for real gamers. Like they're in." You know, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was super cool. Anytime we can, you know, stretch our legs into the stream that is Maine, we're like, "Oh shit!" Someone said Magic. Let's go.
But you know what though? It's like I said, like we live in a world where. You now have full-grown 25-year-old adults that don't know a world where any of our nerd stuff doesn't exist. Right?
And where nerds have been cool for like 15 years now or so. Like,
and I tell people, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, D&D, Warhammer, whatever. Like, they've all existed for these people. Yeah. So for them, it's just a part of life. It's a thing people do. It's a hobby that exists. Whereas we had to, like, explain it to people, you know what I mean? Like
I mean, even still, we're kind of there, but for the younger people, we have to explain less. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah.
Because thankfully, if anything, Pokemon's done a lot of the heavy lifting.
Sure.
Because Pokemon hits kids very, very young. It sort of enters them in the world of both the animation.
Yeah, I'd say
part
Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh both these days.
Right, the animation and the storyline, along with the card games that they can play with their friends and at school and stuff. You know, that does so much heavy lifting in terms of like what a card game is and what does it mean to have like mana or power or, you know, things to pay for other things and so on. Whereas I don't even understand how Yu-Gi-Oh works. I don't know how. Like I understand it, but I don't like get it because how does that game even remotely control itself with having no standard and no vintage? It's just
They literally have a rotating ban list
everything.
that's like every 6 months.
And they ban
And stuff
like
goes on and off their list regularly.
right, and they can ban shit down to the card. Like you can only have one of this card, or two of this card, or three of this card, and yada yada. Like they're wild because they'll take whatever was good and just ban it, and now you got to play with the new stuff because the old stuff is already banned, or it's banned to the point where it's not worthy of playing with or messing with. And everything's kind of a combo deck. I don't.
Here's a wild thing to think about: like the number of people you know that have some significant thing in their life because of Magic, whether it's like a business, their car, their house, whatever. Like that's an ever-growing list to tell you how like significant Magic is and how long it's been around. Like that's kind of crazy.
Nice. Jersey Wriggler notes that Pay Money Wubby, who is a fantastic entertainer, if you don't know what I'm talking about, opened a serialized Cleopatra on the Magic Monday stream. That's pretty awesome. His beta starter also had alpha rares in it. I don't know if that's a printer problem or if that's a repack problem, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a weird repack issue, if I recall.
Because like believable that it could have been a printer issue.
I don't know,
because of the time period,
Alpha
but
and
also
beta were so you know what I mean. That's
what I'm saying.
1993
like
printing because the borders changed, right? The curvature of the cards changed, which is pretty huge. I would argue that's probably a repack.
But I was gonna say, but it could have been a repack.
But as the Maverick Girl notes, it could have happened. I'm not saying it's out of the realm possibility. I'm saying that if all of those rares that were the alpha rares were bad, then it's probably a repack.
All right, so I got to tell you the funniest thing I heard this week. So there was somebody talking because they were on somebody's TikTok that was getting like starting to be a bit racist, and somebody was doing a Stitch thing. You know, it's like, hey, have you noticed how people are starting to say black with a really hard B because they can't say the N word? And it was like, what do you mean the really hard B? And the dude says, you know, it's like when Malfoy says Potter. It's like the same thing.
Also,
I was like,
black. Like, well, you got to do the fat guy bees. The fat guy bees are the way to go. Bitter Blossom. We're going back to Bloomburrow.
I was just cracking up when he said, you know, it's just how Malfoy says Potter. And I was like,
Potter.
That is such funny. A good analogy that I'm like, that's so unreal that it's accurate.
You know, they were talking to Daniel Radcliffe and they were like, you know, do you have any advice for someone who's going to be Harry Potter or whatever? And he's like, well, please shelter the shit out of them because when they started, there was no social media landscape as we knew
for sure.
it. There was some MySpaces or whatever, Friendster things happening, but there was not what we have today. And God help those children that they pull in for those roles and the BS they're going to be going through for the next 10 years of their life or whatever.
Dude, I remember a chick I was dating at the time. She was she was a manager at Hastings, which that's a business that doesn't exist anymore. But they did these like midnight releases that would have like, God, it must have been like 400 or 500 people in line. Like it was a whole to-do where they had a little thing set up with like different Magic things and a butterbeer station and whatever. And I'm like, could you imagine in the world of social media like what that would have been like?
Oh my God.
With everybody trying to get a picture and an autograph and whatever, and like, and then all that's being brought to these kids' doorsteps on social media to like, you're the representative of all of this. Like, that's crazy.
And
that's
thanks
crazy.
to the Maverick Girl and Jersey Bricklayer, apparently there were some extra alpha rares left over, and a few beta starters have had alpha rares in them, so that's neat. I bet people got excited for midnight release for a book. That was really cool. It really was. It was fun.
For the purposes of my joke, I need you guys to tell me either your favorite Olympic sport or the Olympic sport that you think you either could have or would currently be best at.
Oh, I got to tell you, I tried pole vaulting, and that is one of the scariest things I've ever done.
You tried it? Like, actually ran at the thing and did the stuff?
Yeah, dude, it is so, like, because you literally are just, like, sticking that thing and, like,
sounds like a nightmare.
God take the wheel. Like, it's just like, it is so scary, dude.
We all gonna die.
Oh, you have to have confidence. Like, you can't halfway pole vault. Like, you are committing once you jump. Like, it is the scariest thing. I don't recommend... Unless you're like an adrenaline junkie or whatever, I wouldn't recommend anybody do it.
I mean, I jumped off the high dive, and that was scary. Now, imagine jumping off of the high dive, but instead of jumping, you launch yourself into the sky, and instead of into the pool, you launch yourself at the ground. That's what pole
Oh,
vaulting
not
is.
just that, but you also have to have enough control that like once you realize you're not going to hit the mark, that
Right.
you're not going to also just like crash on your back.
Right.
Right.
Break something.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot going on and there's a lot of training before they even let you really attempt doing a jump. Like
Right.
just to make sure you can safely land is a
Yeah.
big deal.
Right.
I also watched a guy get stuck with a pole vault one time, and that was
With a pole vault?
oh yeah, or not a pole, a
Oh, a
javelin.
javelin.
Oh, Jesus.
I've seen that. I mean, that's what it is. It's a war weapon.
Yeah, like
that's
dude,
where it
that's-
originated.
Giant
that
arrow.
messed me up for a little bit seeing that.
Goodness. Yeah, in terms of like, I don't know. I enjoy watching like the diving swimming stuff.
Yeah.
That's fun. I don't know. I mean,
Mark you
I
down
kinda
for
like,
diving and swimming.
yeah, because like basketball's nice and all, but USA just fucking destroys everyone. So it's not that great of an
But
event
not
to watch.
always. Not
It's
always.
not
Like
always,
international
but
international basketball has gotten legit
recently.
over the last like 8,
That's
10
fair.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Hell, to be honest, the NBA has become probably the most international professional sport because like 30% of the league or something is like international players now.
And like
Nice.
They're
5
from
of
all
the
over.
last 6 MVPs.
Yeah, they're from all over.
Yeah.
There you go.
Also, if Czechoslovakia were the same country still, it would be significantly better at basketball than the United States. But as it is, it's Czech Republic or Czechia
and then Bosnia and
and
Herzegovina.
Slovakia
Right.
are both good at basketball.
Right.
But if they
that's a
were
good point. I hadn't
if they
thought
were
about
together, they'd be
Yeah.
unstoppable. Luka and Nikola Jokic would be on the same team, right?
that. Yeah.
Isn't that how that works?
Yeah.
So that'd be insane.
Oh,
Anyway.
okay. Somebody posted soccer's better than basketball, or whatever, which arguable. But
I mean, yeah,
I saw a video that explained that soccer actually originated as a British term.
it did.
I did not know that.
Soccer what is originally a British term.
So they use the word association for a
Yeah.
long time, but just because it's Brits, they always like chop words off. So it was basically like a sock or sock, and then there was a period of time in like I want to say like the 60s or whatever, where there was a trend in their language to add er to stuff. So they used the term soccer, and then when it started being played more in the U.S., they basically used that word and brought it over. But then at some point in like the 70s or something, they just decided they didn't want to use the word soccer anymore.
It's
So they
football.
went back. So they went back to calling it football, and we already had American football.
Right.
So then they started making fun of us for the word they brought over for soccer,
Yeah.
which
look.
is hilarious.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not how that works. This is more shit.
So what do you got, Power Dragon?
Um,
I'm already doing soccer.
yeah, no, like pole
Soccer's my
vault's kind of
sport.
hilarious, but like
Pole
oddly,
vault.
triple jump was also a thing
Triple
Okay.
jump's fun.
because there's actually a motion to learn in triple jump
Yes.
that I think when people start out, you're just trying to take 3 quick jumps, and it's just like, no, there's actually like a
No.
method, and
It's like a gallop.
yeah, it's weird, but like once you get it down, it makes so much sense, and you go like an extra 12 feet, and you're just like, how this is it? Like,
It reminds me of like if you play disc golf, like there's a way that you can throw it and like you're throwing it, it's
oh
fine.
yeah,
But once you understand all the power in the wrist and like the flick and all that stuff, and you can never like really
absolutely.
put the energy through the disc, it's different. That's a whole different way of throwing something than just like I threw a frisbee. It's like no,
It's
man.
like when I used to watch guys that would run like the 110-meter hurdles, and like I just couldn't understand how they were doing, and they only take 3 steps between hurdles. And then if you watch them, it's almost like their torso doesn't move; their legs just come up, and then they clear the hurdle, and it's like step 1, 2, 3, boom, 1, 2, 3, boom. And I'm like, what's like? And it looks so mechanical.
Yeah.
But all the people that are good at it, their body can just do the motion, and this is so weird.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, I tell people, man, Olympic athletes, track and field, if you look at each individual sport, there is definitely a method and a practice skill to every single one of them that they have figured out.
So, a little Counter-Strike bullshit for y'all. Things are kind of quiet because this is the off season. Like for the next, for about a month in the middle of the year, Counter-Strike pros just get some time off. Like
Everybody get to go on vacation, take a break, recharge.
Literally for like 3 or 4 weeks, there's just not much going on. Some stuff online, but really not that much. Definitely not big in-verse events. So a lot of teams use this to shake up the rosters, and they've been doing that. And so G2, who is a very good team, they have Nico and Monacy, two of the best players in the world. They decided to get rid of one of their riflers named Nexa and get rid of their IGL named Hooksy. Hooksy was a giant meme lord. Everyone loved to make memes of him. He was not a very good player, but the team did very well. So you could argue the in-game leader's job isn't even to frag very well. It's just, it's to tell people where to go and what to do. And oftentimes those people don't do very well because they're busy trying to tell people what to do versus shooting people or whatever. Cool. So they brought in this one guy named Malbs DB from this team called M80 from America, which is awesome. We had a really good player and they took him. Damn it. They also had to pay $500,000 to take him. So there's that.
That's just so insane.
So what they didn't have was an in-game leader. They got rid of Hooksy. And they said, okay, we're going to announce it today. And so they announced it today. And the person replacing them is this guy named Snacks. And this guy named Snacks is, in the Counter-Strike world, pretty old. He's 30 years old. Ooh.
I was about to say, I was literally about to say, I feel like I've heard that name a while back.
He's been around a long, long time.
Okay.
And we're talking, he's been playing since his late teens. And
Go to Show Topics.
Oh, goodness. Show Topics, what's up?
Just look at it.
Okay. What's wrong?
Do you see what the latest thing that Maverick Girl put in?
I did not. Oh, you're talking about the Discord. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the doc. I'm like, hey, what's going on?
No.
Oh, very nice.
I mean, for the creator showdown.
Right, as it should be. And again, Wizards has this awesome, we're not even in the office this week, so we've got an out, we can't address that. We'll talk about it on Monday or whatever. So high five on that, but it's just band stupid bird.
Also, randomly cool that I did not know Wizard is doing, but they do a summer break now for staff. So there's just a week in the summer. I think it's this week.
I was going to say it's this week because they're off all week or whatever.
Yeah, but they literally just hey, everybody just gets a week off.
Yeah.
Just summer recharge. We'll come back. We'll do a thing. So that's pretty cool because now you get a week in June or July, and then you'll get the week at the very end of the year. So that's kind of cool.
Don't they get 2 weeks at the end of the year?
Technically,
New Year's.
A lot of people just cash in their vacation around that time, and so you already have a few days off, and then it becomes forever because you don't come back till the 3rd or whatever.
I'm taking. Because
I can tell you when I was there, I had 1 month where I came in on Monday, Tuesday, Monday, and then they didn't see me again till the 3rd. I was 5 days in December.
Wow.
Because I just had a bunch of vacation because they give you decent vacation time.
Yeah, I also used have a bunch. I'm taking.
So I was all right.
Yeah, I'm taking Friday off as PTO because I get tomorrow off, but having to go in Friday is kind of weird. I'll just take it off. It'll be fine. But yeah, so there's that.
But one thing I will say is that's why a lot of people will tell you, not just at Wizards, but at a lot of game companies and stuff, they've already made their push for things in November because by the second week in November, they've kind of sold everything they're going to sell. It's going into stores. Everybody's trying to make their Black Friday or whatever. Mm-hmm. So if it's not out the door by then, you're probably not moving it. So a lot of those companies just let their employees take time off or whatever. So there's just almost no business being done in the game industry, or at least the tabletop game industry, in the month of December. And even at Wizards, those 5 days I was there, we were doing minimal work because each department maybe had 5 or 6 people there. Nobody was in the building. So it's a crazy time.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, the summer, which I think some would imagine would be kind of good for game stores and games, is not that great. A lot of times because people are outside, vacationing, doing something different. They're away from their homes or whatever, so they're not able to go to local game stores and play in events or whatever. So that's interesting. And I think, if anything, it shows the crazy hype around Bloomborough that they moved it up into August when, again, August not always the greatest month. But if you got a killer product and everyone's clamoring and it can buck trends,
I also think it's a matter of we did the really long, whatever it was, 5 months the last couple of years on between standard releases. and everybody kind of went like, that's a bit long.
It
Like,
sucked. Yeah, it was terrible.
let's move that up a month and a half, and see
Yeah.
what we can do with that. And then, coincidentally, it's allowed them extra time to put this other stuff that we found out,
Right.
into the year, whatever. But
Right. I mean, we're still gonna have what, like 2 months or something between Duskmourn and Bloomborough, something like
yeah,
that.
it's like 7 weeks, 7 or 8 weeks,
Right.
something like that.
Which, again, grand scheme of things, not a big deal. For the releases. Speaking of releases, and the CS2 stuff is whatever. Just everyone's like, oh my god, he's old, and why are they doing that? Who knows? Maybe it'll work out. If you play Marvel Snap, they have released what I would argue is the best card on a variety of metrics they've released in a long time. Erisham released yesterday, and it is a fucking blast. I paid the full 6,000 tokens for this stupid thing, but my god, it's a 7 energy, 7 power card. There's never been a 7 energy card. And it's a weird number because at the beginning of the game, if it's in your deck, you get +1 energy for the rest of the game, basically +1 mana for the rest of the game, but it shovels in 12 random cards into your deck. So 11 cards you choose, plus the Erisham, and then you get 12 completely random cards, but you have twice as much mana on turn 1, basically, and +1 mana for every other turn thereafter. And it is a fucking blast. It's not
like
busted,
playing.
but it is
It's like
so
playing
much fun.
Battle of Wits or Yorion, basically.
But I feel like even if I'm just getting random crap,
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
resource advantage is probably still good enough, unless
It
you
is.
just get a weird thing where like all 12 cards are like 5 or 6 plus cost things or whatever.
Right.
And
But like,
statistically, you're not going to. And
yeah, exactly. I was saying that's not likely. So like, it's probably fine.
Like,
Like
people-
it's probably benefited. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. People have been running all the numbers, and like, for example, you have a 30% chance that your deck has a duplicate in it because it picks randomly,
Sure.
or whatever. And there's a variety of effects that happen, like 50% of the time, depending on how it's generated, and all this stuff. And it's just a blast because A, you get to play with random stuff, cards you don't necessarily own. B, you have an inherent advantage, which is awesome. And C, it's not broken. I have lost many times the deck, and I've won many times the deck, and it's super fun in a whole variety of manners. And I'm just like, holy shit. It's been a hot minute since I've had this much fun with Marvel Snap, and I can highly recommend it if you haven't played it or haven't played it in a minute. It's good stuff.
I would also say that that's a level of RNG that's different because you're signing up for it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's coming with a benefit. I feel like a lot of times there's been, especially if you play something like Hearthstone,
Right.
there's some cards that literally are just like, this is what we are, but we're randomly going to generate a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna spin the
It
wheel.
might even be detrimental to you, and you can't do anything about it. Like, it's just a thing you get.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, that's not so much.
Yeah, it's all upside. It's a bunch of fun. It's different every single game, which is another thing that's really cool about it. Yeah, I was really impressed because I thought like it would be neat. You know what I mean? It sounded neat, but
Yeah.
there was always like, is it going to be weird? Is it going to be too good? Is it not going to be good enough? Is it going to be stupid? Like, no, man, it's just actually fun as hell. And I've been playing so many people who have 20 cards in their deck to start with, because they are also playing Erisham. And
Well, of course.
yeah, the meta is shifting, and the things that beat Erisham is playing, and like,
Well, yeah.
It's great.
Basically, you just jam your deck full of good cards that don't need anything else to function, right?
What's funny about
Yeah.
it is you have to run cards. You don't have to, but I would recommend, based on my playing, that you run cards that draw you cards, and or make cards in your hand, because you
Sure.
literally don't have enough to play. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
you play out everything. You're like, I just need fucking cards. Just give me something. You know what I mean? And that's been super cool. And Loki's amazing. If you play with Loki, he replaces your hand and makes everything. Replaces your hand with the equal number of cards randomly from their starting deck, but it makes them one cost cheaper, and so you have extra energy.
Oh,
and
sure.
they're cheaper, and it's just you're just fucking. It is so much fun and absolutely ridiculous. And holy shit, I am so happy with that card. I was not expecting to be that pleased. Because, I'm a generally competitive guy. I don't like the weird, silly RNG, but no, it's just the right RNG where you can build your deck, take advantage of it. It always changes the gameplay style every game, and it's just a ton of fun with a variety. So, I love it. All right, we are 3 minutes out. I'm going to go grab me something to drink,
Yeah.
and
I might
I'll
use a
be
restroom.
right back. Oh, no, that means Power Dragon's going to have to
Well, I'll wait.
power us through. Okay,
I'll wait.
I'll be right back.
No, that's fine.
So,
My soccer team, the Columbus Crew, won again tonight, 2-0.
Nice.
They are on a tear. They have scored 11 goals in their last 3 games and given up 1 goal in their last 3 games. They are the most exciting team that I've ever seen in MLS, and that includes other Columbus Crew teams that had like all-time scorers. Like it's the most exciting MLS team since for me, since Valderrama and Mamadou Diallo played for Tampa Bay back when Tampa Bay had a team in the early 2000s.
Dude, I don't think people know the environment of a soccer game. Right? Like when I go watch the Seattle team up here, they play in the same stadium as the Seahawks. But, Sounders do their best to fill it up. And it's usually not bad. Like half to like 3/4. They'll get a good audience there sometimes. But dude, from literally as soon as the ball's in play, like people are there's chants, people banging drums. There's like nonstop until halftime. And then it's like dead. Everybody's going to the bathroom, get their beer, whatever they're going to do. And then literally like the minute the ball's back in play, they are nonstop again until the end of the game. And I'm like, how are y'all not dead?
Yeah.
Like this, it's the most ridiculous thing. And honestly, I was impressed at how, I would say, like savvy the fans were. Like they understood all the rotations and who was coming in and why, and like they had a rough idea of how much overtime there was, and like they were fully engaged while doing all the ridiculous like cheering, chanting, whatever else.
For sure.
It's a whole production. Like it's like I tell you, it's a reason I look at that and go, man, there's a reason baseball is just slowly sliding behind these other sports. Like they're just trying to hold on tradition and formality and whatever way too much, and people just want to have a fun time at the game.
Yeah, it's great. Soccer is super fun because you don't have to pay super close attention, but if you do pay super close attention, you're rewarded for it.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff to do, like chants, and you can sit down and sort of rest, or you can go get a snack, and or you can be locked in the whole time. And also, it's 2 45-minute halves. We aren't calling timeout every 5 seconons.
Oh no, the game's just going.
The game's just going, and like. It's super clean. You're in, you're out. I mean, there's nothing better.
Halftime and overtime, you're usually done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
We are at 11 o'clock. It is time to rock and roll. All right.
We have a title.
You have a title.
Amazing.
A tittle, if you will.
Incredible news.
But that's not what that is. Tittle's different. All right, we'll go ahead and start recording this locally. Let's go ahead and get started, and we'll begin, of course, by saying hello to my 2 co-hosts and so on. In 3, 2. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffing.com, Mana Traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like you. My name is Evan Irwin, and get started each week by saying hello to my 2 co-hosts, Power Dragon.
What's up, everybody? And this week we had piles of news. We might have to just race through this episode. There's a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bit. Ruben Bressler.
Yeah, for once in our lives, we actually aren't going to have to vamp. We actually might have to move fast. So get started.
Nice. Power Dragon might want to slide a little bit to your left there. But yeah, if you missed that pre-show where we talk about my horrible decision to download and install Civilization 6, just one more turn, y'all. Just one more turn.
It was a good decision. Just bad for your productivity.
Just bad for the productivity. I swear. I need to just one more turn. Now, listen, Patreon subs to this channel get access to that stuff. And we kick it off with our first pick on our promo code reminder. Visit CoolStuffInc.com. Right there. Use promo code MagicMics to save 5% off anything in the store. As many times as you want. You can run this back. No problem. Every single time. Let them know who sent you. It helps us. It helps you. Everybody wins. Promo code MagicMics. There at CoolStuffInc.com, and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions into the show to see who we rate tonight on Twitch. Thanks for that sponsor, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. Use promo code MagicMics. Just do it. Just do it. Now, we'll move on here to the first pick. So, for those who weren't able to go to Pro Tour Amsterdam or Pro Tour MagicCon Amsterdam that featured Pro Tour or whatever, if you weren't able to go, there was coverage of the event all weekend long. And first of all, Frank Carson on the desk is like A plus. Like, can we get Frank Carson all the time because he's so good at explaining all of the math, really, and all of the matchups and so on. He's great at it. But the problem was it was one of the most broken, busted PTs I've ever seen. And no matter how you can say the Hogak took over, Fairies took over, whatever, Splinter Twin took over, it doesn't matter because traditionally, even if you had a busted deck at the Pro Tour, it didn't win, or it didn't always win. Like, I might have won once with Splinter Twin. But, Hogak didn't win the big Hogak Pro Tour, and so, like, what's up with that? Well, here's Nadu's chance. And Nadu is the broken bird from Modern Horizons 3 that provides really dumb triggers, and they had to make this silly token that went in the middle of coverage so they could keep track of the 0, the first, and the second time that something had been targeted and have them on different sides of the table, and it was kind of nuts. And most of the event, particularly at the end of it, I'm not kidding you, was a lot of, do you have it? You've got it. No, you've got it. No, wait, I've got this. And, like, then they have it, and then it's like 5 to 7 minutes of dirtling, and then somebody wins. And it was that all weekend long. And
I mean,
it
was
better.
Basically a combo deck with creatures instead, is what it was. Like, we didn't really say that, but it's really the situation you have when it's 2 combo decks playing a game of chicken,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
the Nadu deck, as it ended up getting built and created, the Bant Nadu deck, and then the 4-color Nadu deck to a lesser extent, but really that 3-color Bant Nadu deck is very similar to decks we've seen in the past that either used, I mean, this one did use Court of Calling, but Birthing Pod, Court of Calling, what we affectionately call Creature Toolbox.
Right.
And this was just another iteration of a Creature Toolbox deck. This one just so happened to have a value engine attached to its combo that could end the game or just continue amassing combo. In many ways, rather than comparing it to, for example, like the Kitchen Finks three creature combo deck, I think of it more like Elves in Old Modern, because even if you fizzle, even if you don't completely combo off, you still end your turn with a handful of cards and a massive board state. Like, your fail state is still incredibly powerful with the deck. So it is not horrifically surprising, given that they ended up on this shell that was so consistent and able to get the pieces that they needed together, that we ended up with something quite so powerful. Are there ways to combat this? Of course there are. We've got Collector Oof, we've got Suppression Field. Like, there's lots of stuff that can be done to try to interact with Nadu, but even if you do that, you're warping the metagame in the way that Affinity once warped the metagame. You are playing main deck Molder Slugs against Affinity. We don't want to be playing in a world where our entire life is, half the decks we play against are Nadu. And that is what we saw at the end of the tournament, at the very least. Something like a quarter or a third of the decks had Nadu, I think, in them to start the tournament. And then, of course, the top 4 was all Nadu.
And 5 of the top 8. And it had a
60%,
almost 60% win rate. And, it's funny because right before the event, basically there were 2 big combo decks. There was Nadu and there was Storm. And the Storm deck was like, it's what John Finkel played, or what LSV played, a whole bunch of them played. And it's like, oh man, is that Storm deck, even better than we thought it was or whatever? Well, it ain't faster than Nadu, so no. And that's kind of what happened.
Even looking through at just how much Modern Horizons 3 left its stamp on the decks in this tournament, like, there was Boros Energy, there was the black Necrodominance, Grief, whatever decks, that was a thing.
Yep.
Like, pretty much all of the best decks were playing a significant number of cards for Modern Horizons 3.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost the bigger story as a whole of just like, yeah, Modern isn't really what people wanted it initially to be anymore, right? Like, those cards you like playing from, hell, I don't know, was it 18 years ago now? 15 years ago? Like, a lot of those, like, if you had a deck, I have a deck that I just sitting in a box that's been sitting there since like 2018, right? A Jund deck. That thing would be crap today, even though it's full of great cards.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just what Modern's become now.
Well, a few things. One, we got to remember, Modern Horizons 2 was the best-selling set ever.
Sure.
It beat every metric. They had to reprint it a million times. Modern Horizons 3 is selling like hotcakes, and it's because they're literally pushed the set, right? And so you've got Modern is now. And I didn't really say this for the first two sets, but I think with the third set, we've really cemented the fact that it is Modern Horizons constructed for the vast majority of it. It's Modern Horizons constructed / cards from all of those years of cards that may have some really cool, interesting interaction with the new Modern Horizons cards. And that's kind of what we've been stuck with for a hot minute. And it's tough.
It is also... So I have two thoughts. And the first is... Nadu as a card, clearly now given this result, and it's also its popularity in CEDH, and just sort of like you look at it now and you go, it isn't obviously too powerful in one spot, but it is a little too powerful in 5 spots, right? Like it shouldn't trigger twice a turn. It should draw the card instead of putting the card in. The land should come into play tapped.
Yes.
It should have 3 toughness, right? Like all of these sort of stopgaps that we can now, hindsight is 2020, look back at.
Right.
But we still have 2020 in our hindsight, and so now we look at it and we go, there's no like. Can we fix this card, or is this another Oko that Evan will have burning a hole in his account and complain about in the future?
I can't ever play it. Well, now I can't, thankfully. So, but for a very long time, I could do absolutely nothing with it. But yeah, I mean, and again, so here we are, right? Here we are, and not just here we are. This is literally the best it has ever been in terms of a new card showed up and ran the event. Just, I mean, right in the ground. Everyone who played it did well. It was the majority of the top 8. It was the entire top 4, the entire finals. What are they going to do? And I'm telling you, we can run this line all the way back to Ice Age, all the way back to Necropotence. They didn't ban Necropotence immediately. They banned stuff around it. And they didn't ban Survival of the Fittest immediately. They banned stuff around it. And at some point, you're like, hey, they didn't ban Hogak immediately. They banned Bridge from Below. And then the people were like, we don't even need Bridge from Below, lol. Then they banned Golgari Grave Troll. And it's like, look, the problem is the problem. And I know it's fun and cool and shiny. And Lord knows the last thing Wizards wants to do is hurt sales. I get it. But at some point, you have to recognize that, like, it was a bridge too far, and the game is worse for having that card be legal versus like trying to dance around it. I don't want to dance around this card for years, just like Birthing Pod or whatever. Just get rid of it. Just let it go.
Yeah, I would say banning Nadu's not going to hurt sales at this point. Like,
I hope not.
People buying it aren't necessarily the Nadu chasers, I guess. Like, that's not what they're going into those packs for. So it's fine. Hell, they could reinstitute for temporary time for 6 months, like the redemption thing they did the one time. Like, they banned a thing, you can send it in and get a booster pack or whatever it is they want to do, right?
That's one way to do it. I mean,
sure.
Ultimately, you don't necessarily want the play experience of somebody buying a pack and they open it up and they got a cool that cool version of Nadu or whatever, and like, oh, that card's really neat. It looks really fun, and they're like, yeah, that's banned. You can't play it, and you're like, oh.
Well, you just can't play it in Modern, though.
In Modern, exactly.
Like, you can play it in other stuff.
You can still play it as your commander, which is by far the most popular format.
For now.
Well, for now, sure.
I will say right now in Commander, from what we've seen and what we've tested, it's not crazy dominant. The downside is that it's just a long turn with lots of record keeping and stuff, but doesn't necessarily lead to the game ending. So, like, not bad enough to get rid of it, more of just a nuisance, and we'll see if people just like self-regulate on the card because they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. So there's a MTGO creator thing that's happening. The MTGO Creator Showdown on July 13th, and they are already pre-banning Nadu. Now, that doesn't say Wizards is going to do anything official, but for that event, we're not going to have to watch 1,000 triggers versus 1,000 triggers, the format. And to know, while the format of the event was broken, the coverage was great. Frank Karsten killed it. Maria and everybody at the desk, high five. Y'all did a good job with the broken event that you were given to showcase, which was unfortunate.
There's a very smart thing by doing this with the Creator Showcase, is that you can decide if Nadu not being around causes another problem.
I mean, you get to
right?
see
But
the
before
pendulum
you
swing
announce
back to
any
Necro
bannings,
dominance, right?
exactly, you can go, all right, are the next best decks too good or are they fine, balanced against each other, whatever, that we don't care, right? But if something else gets supremely elevated because Nadu's not around, then you can go ahead and just two birds, one stone on the next announcement.
And, it was nice to have a European Pro Tour that I could wake up and the draft rounds were about over. I was like, oh, cool.
Dude, tell me about it.
I got to see the
Yeah.
cool, sweet modern rounds. It was neat. It was fun. Then I was like, oh, damn, this format's broken. Dang it.
Yeah.
But on Sunday, and I think it was before top four or before the finals. I can't remember
I think
exactly
before
when it
the
was.
top eight.
Before the top eight, was it?
Yeah.
Maybe. Either way, during the top eight, Sunday experience, they had a point where they were like, "Hey, we're going to make a special announcement about organized play from Huey Jensen and William Jensen." And he came out, and I was not really prepared for the amount of emotion that was going on there, and I'm like, "What? What is happening?" And he started talking a bit about the history of the Pro Tour and the history of the game, and and he kind of got around to Kai Budde and how like Kai was the number one Sunday menace for a very long time. The only person who's ever won 4 Pro Tours in a row, as I recall, and is just one of the greatest players ever. And not only is he a great player, he's a really cool guy to hang out, talk to, discuss things with, not just Magic, and isn't sort of one of those who will only talk about Magic. Also, funny guy, just great to hang around. Talked about how he was a friend with him for so long, and then kind of dropped the emotional bombshell that Kai unfortunately has been suffering from cancer, and F cancer, by the way. And as a result, the cancer, not just that he has it, but it's also been kind of progressing. It's getting a little worse. And they feel like, we're at a point where he might have only so many events left, for example. And so they are going to rename the Player of the Year award to the Kai Budde Player of the Year award, which I thought was incredible. And the fact that, like, I've known Kai for a very long time. I've interviewed him. I've seen him at events. I've hung out with him, many, many times in the past. I was getting super emotional and overclamped about it, and so was the coverage team, and it was a whole thing, but it was just incredibly beautiful. And given the fact that Wizards often doesn't sort of like to put their players into Magic things, like player names into official Magic things, they'll change the picture of the invitational list or whatever when they get reprinted and so on. To see them really just say, look, this is for forever. This is where our Player of the Year is going to be this, because Kai was just a force to be reckoned with. And when you started playing, even me back in the 90s, the first 2 names I ever heard of pro Magic was John Finkel and Kai Budde, and that was just the 2 towers of great Magic playing, and it was just incredible and emotional, and I absolutely loved it.
I mean, I think this is it's a nice, very professional, like heartfelt decision.
Right.
So I want to say that up front, but it's also a safe decision for Wizards because Kai, at this point, we have a track record of who he is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, not to be crass here, but like he's not gonna be with us soon. So there's not like this can be tarnished that we're gonna turn up something like he's, you know what I mean? It is what it is. So like this is a good honor to have for Kai, and I think everybody was super responsive in a positive way to it. Plus, I think the Magic community being older in general, we kind of all have experienced somebody dealing with cancer at this point, it feels like. So it's all very relatable for a lot of people. So yeah, very cool move by Wizards for sure.
It is a unfortunate situation, but it is lucky in some ways that we get to have this opportunity, because most of the time you name stuff posthumously. You don't have the chance to give the credit when it's due while the person is here with us. You have the memorial awards, you have the posthumous awards, but sometimes you don't get the opportunity to say thank you with the people there. I don't know what Kai's prognosis is. I don't know what the details are, and I don't need to know what the details are. The look on Huey's face is all we really needed to know. If you haven't watched the 7.5, 8 minute clip of Huey's speech, followed by Kai's brief remarks afterwards, you should go watch it if you're a fan of Magic, even if you're not a historian of Magic. Um, Kai is an extremely sweet, smart, kind man who has time for everyone. I have a lot of great experiences with Kai myself, having been able to report on many of his tournaments, and live in a house with him, live in a castle with him for a week. I went shopping. Actually, that's the best Kai story I have. So we had to go. We were in Ireland for Pro Tour Theros, and it was 13 of the best Magic players on the planet, plus Jeremy Knoll and myself, and the two sweet old people who owned the castle, and it was great. And but when you live in a castle, when you're living in an Airbnb, you got to go shopping.
Right.
And so Kai was like, "I'll go shopping," and so it was me, Gabe Nassif, and Kai went shopping. And Kai's a cook. Kai likes to cook and make food for people. And so we're comparing vegetables and looking at the quality of the meat and like looking at all the stuff. And it's just us hanging out. And it's me and two of the at the time, three best Magic players of all time.
Oh yeah.
Funny. He's kind. He's German, so he's got that sort of like brevity to him.
Right.
And I'm excited that we get to have the opportunity to thank him for his greatness.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that he can have that kind of longevity, the idea that we can celebrate him now, which was brilliant. I just thought was great, and at the same time, I don't want for example, other people like Mark Rosewater to go away. For us to have maybe a design of the year, for example, or a design thing that we're able to kind of look at that is celebrated in some way, or maybe the set of the year or something, just a little bit more self-congratulatory. I know it's kind of weird, and
yeah,
but I feel like Wizards just tries to not do that. You know what I mean? Where they're like, we don't want to call attention to how much what went well and what didn't go so well or whatever. And Rosewater kind of bucks that trend, which is nice. But yeah, I just
I also want to let it be known that Kai is only, I believe, like 42.
He's like 40. He's in his mid to early 40s.
Yeah, it's not like he's one of the oldest guys running around. Like, I mean, he's still, sadly, because of cancer, he's going to lose probably 25, 30 years he had ahead of him, and that's rough. And,
they say, like, don't meet your heroes, but I got to meet one, and he's awesome. Like, he really was. And not all the people
you should meet Kai.
Yeah, who you feel you put up on those pedestals are worth kind of hanging out with. Kai was a dude, and is a dude, who's worth hanging out with and getting to know and talk to, and it was just an absolute joy, and tears were shed, and Kai's great, and I love it, and I also hate it, but I can still love it at the same time. And of course, because Kai Budde is Kai Budde, he won the PTQ on Sunday, because Kai does not lose on Sundays.
Yeah, on the way out, you got to get a one or two more.
Yeah, man.
Just incredible. I believe it was like Brad Nelson who beat Kai on Sunday, and it was like a big, huge thing. This was like Pro Tour Amsterdam 2011 or something, and that was a big deal, which was incredible. But let's move on here out of the first pick to gather the townsfolk. Thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes_8N48 November 4 for 10% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. Tell them we sent you. We appreciate them sponsoring the show. All right. So Wizards got a chance to announce some new things and have a preview panel, which I thought was pretty rad. And everything old is new again, as it always is. And there's going to be a new set on November 15th that will be the foundation for Magic players. The design philosophy was, what would a set simply called Magic the Gathering look like? And they're calling it Magic the Gathering Foundations. Now, here's one thing. It's going to have play boosters, collector boosters, along with a big beginner box and a starter kit, all that good stuff, which is some of that's new, which is neat. But the kicker is that it is going to be standard legal through at least 2029. That's 5 years in the future. Now, look, when it first shows up, you're going to have those collector boosters, and those are going to dry up probably fairly quickly. right?
Yeah.
There's going to have play boosters, so you can draft it and you can play steel with it, and that's cool, right? But what you're trying to tell me is that this product is going to be sold for 5 years? Like, do you trying to tell retailers that 4 years from now you're going to sell any of these boosters? I mean,
I would
you know
venture to guess it's really going to be printed for probably 3 years, and then whatever's in the distribution chain is going to be what it is.
As I understand it, they're taking kind of notes from Hearthstone that has like a core
Sure.
set. And
Yes.
cards that are just kind of legal all the time, so you can, bank on them. And they showcased a few Day of Judgment, for example, always being there. A new Glorious
Yep.
Anthem for a green and a white mana, I thought was also really interesting. But yeah, this is
Land
a
War
weird
Elves?
thing. Land War Elves.
Forever?
From now until the next 5 years, every Magic designer has to say you can get 3 mana on turn 2 with a green deck.
Yep.
And that was something they got rid of Land War Elves exactly for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a couple of things about the set though that I tried to get in the mindset of like, why do they want this to exist, right? There is the aspect of some people get busy with life or whatever, and you come back, you want to play standard, but some of your favorite cards or deck or whatever is rotated out. Like in a 5-year stretch, you can come back and some reasonable portion of your cards will still be available to play with, and that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Depending on what percentages they build the set with, whether it's 80% old cards, 20% new cards, whatever, if you're coming back to the game, there will be things that are familiar. Like we're talking about, like the Land War Elves and Day of Judgment, whatever.
Right.
So that's also appealing, right? You're not building with things that are all brand new and you have to learn, and you take some of the pressure and the concern away. The other thing that I was able to find out is that with this, they are wanting to treat this like a full-on starter product as a jumping on point. So I believe they're supposed to also be the, what do we call the little like shuffle up packs or whatever those things were. Those, Jumpstart's supposed to be part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're bringing back the 30 card starter decks that they used to give to retailers to teach new people with or whatever.
Yes, the welcome decks.
Those are supposed to be coming back as well. So they are putting the full court press behind this to say like, hey, we want this to be an introductory product. We want people to be comfortable. We want an easy on ramp, and they're giving it every opportunity to succeed in the long run. It's a little weird with the messaging being like, we moved from 2-year to 3-year standard. Now we have a thing that's a 5-year thing in standard, like we'll have to work past that. But if it does work, it's at least a neat idea.
I mean, Omniscience is going to be in standard for 5 years, so
Yeah.
we have an upper end, and it's right there.
Yeah, F that card.
Yeah, Anthem of Champions is a brand new card, but also a very simple, straightforward, cool riff on something that just in today's Magic, doesn't really cost 3 mana. And we don't want to have it cost 2 white. That's a Crusade problem. But we can have it cost green white. A, it's thematic for green and white and what they do. B, it's kind of pushed in that way that's exciting. And C, it's a really cool, straightforward effect everybody understands. So that's really rad. I don't know. I don't know how to feel exactly about this product because, when it's so new and different, we know core sets, right? But we don't know core sets that just like keep going. That's going to be weird.
My thought is I want a couple of chunks of the collector's boosters. Because if things will be around standard legal 5 years and people are going to be playing with this and they're going to be looking for rare versions of some of the stuff that may not exist, I'm probably going to get a couple boxes of it. Yeah. But other than that, I'll just play with them because they're around,
Yeah, the 9 Lives Familiar is here, which is super cute.
That thing's awesome. I love that thing's design.
I think it's neat. The card from Phyrexia that deals damage when counters are put on stuff. Remember that one? All will be one. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Like this and any sack
That's
outlet
pretty good.
is an insta win, which I thought was kind of rad. But yeah, this is just going to be a whole strange thing that we get to figure out. There's going to be 5 planeswalkers in it, more than likely very standard versions of Jason friends, I'm guessing. Maybe Garrick will come back.
I was going to say, we just throw back the original 5 and put them in there.
Yeah, exactly. So, Duskmourn. Duskmourn got a lot of highlights. Why? Because Bloomburrow doesn't really need them. Bloomburrow is primed to explode. Bloomburrow already has fantastic pre-sales, and we've barely seen the set at all.
And to be fair, we're right around the corner from previews for Bloomburrow anyway.
They start next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, as they do. But There's already some controversy with Duskmourn House of Horror because there's definitely a motif of the 80s, and one of the big motifs of those 80s are television sets and things that kind of move through television and television type waves and so on. And for what it's worth, for someone who has been kind of trepidatious about this product and said that they're not going to go like as far as they need to, it's going to be more Ghostbusters than it is like Poltergeist or whatever.
Sure.
They're going pretty far, in my opinion. Like they've gone to creepy, weird, kind of gross stuff, which is nice and interesting. Duskmourn itself, a love letter to modern horror. The lore around this is awesome. There's a demon who was basically turned into kind of a house, got stuck there, just kind of kept growing and absorbing things, and spirits are pushed out through the wall slats as it keeps moving and growing. Some people have said that the demon itself is Yawgmoth with just a different name. Who knows? But now that the omen paths are happening, it used to be very difficult to get people into this haunted house plane, but now it's super easy. So we're seeing everybody show up and do crazy stuff.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and it looks brilliant and scary and weird.
There's so many. I mean, it harkens back to what Magic has been doing best since Innistrad and before, which is to take the genre and turn it into Magic and make it their own. Outlaws at Thunder Junction, Murders at Karlov Manor. These are the sets that we're like, these are love letters to genres. And this one is the most modern inspired of those genres. But we're still getting the flavor of the old, somewhat old stories of the House on Haunted Hill, and sort of some of those callbacks as well, and like creepy, like campfire stories.
Yeah, like Puppet Master and like some of those weird, freaky gremlins, for example. They're also going to have a new card type, which, for what it's worth, I think it's going to be a battle, but they're room cards. And they appear to be double-faced in some nature, because we see here Dollmaker Shop / Porcelain Gallery. They're not willing to show us those yet. Whatever room cards is and how they work, obviously we'll figure that out. But remember, there was Battle Siege. There could be Battle Room. And maybe that's how that works. I don't know. We'll see.
I like that.
Yeah. But they were showing some really cool, just neat stuff. Like, I want to know how the Painter Studio turns into the Defaced Gallery. Like, that sounds awesome.
I just realized Duskmourn pre-releases are going to be awesome for me, because I either go 0-1 or I win the tournament.
Okay.
Why?
Why?
Well, because that's what happens to the black guy in every horror thing. Like, you're either dead in the beginning or you last the whole movie.
Wow.
I see.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sick. That's sick.
You want to write the joke? No, that was actually insane. That was great.
That was actually pretty good. And there's going
I
to be
literally just thought of that.
I'm usually the guy that would die at the end of Act 1 to let people know that there is a monster.
Fair.
Is what I would be in the horror movie.
Yeah, I would be the guy that comes in at the very last scene to be like, "What the hell happened here, y'all?" And I'm just like, "What's going? I don't get it. Why is that over there smoking?"
My problem is you'd have trouble getting me into the haunted house in the first place.
Right.
Like, I remember watching, what was it, like the Amityville Horror where the house was talking to the people. Like, I literally told people, like, the house could have my furniture. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
You're like, well, what if your wife's in there? Like, she knows the drill. She's right behind me. Like, we are not, like, the house is talking. I'm out.
We're leaving. Yep.
And then the flip side is like, wow, you actually own your own house?
Yeah, exactly.
It's true in this economy.
Yeah.
Well, look, things like ley lines are coming back, which I thought was neat. Ley line of hope they got to show off.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ley line of hope, if it starts in your opening hand, you can start with it on the battlefield. If you were to gain life, you gain 1+ instead. And as long as you have 7 life more than your starting life total, creatures you control get +2/+2, which is a hell of a bump. And the angel decks or whatever that gain life in older formats say hello, which should be fun. There's going to be some amount of UFOs, right? Or whatever that means. And here's a big one. The haunted screen, where we see what is arguably a television.
Yeah.
And here comes the controversy of how dare you have televisions in Magic? And is this a bridge too far? And we can't have guns, but we can have this.
Here's the thing, though, right? Like, if we just made this look like an Is It pile of parts, and we made instead of having a cathode ray tube, there's like I don't know, a crystal ball or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Like, but literally, but it looks different, so it's bad. Like, especially if we're doing this for one set and then we're bouncing out. Like, who cares? It's not that big a deal.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that ultimately it's the fact that we went through Neon Dynasty, and because that had the cool Japanese anime, so and so vibes that no one cared.
That had electric swords. It had motorcycles. It had like you name it.
Like
It was
neon
all in there.
signs. Like,
Yeah.
come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Also, like, why are we being like so precious about where we draw the line? For a couple reasons. One, we have Transformers, so like, calm down.
Sure.
Two, where is it written that high fantasy can only exist before the year 900 AD in our timeline?
Right.
Right? Like,
I mean, or if you're planeswalking, who's not to say there's not a more advanced plane?
right.
I mean, look, as long as we're not making like VCR tokens with like little Be Kind Rewind counters.
Uh-huh.
To be
Would be
fair,
incredible.
Oh man,
I
Be
kinda
Kind
want
Rewind
those.
extra turn card.
That'd be kind of awesome.
That'd be kind of nuts. But yeah, it'd be sweet. I think it's great. Yes, of course, they're going to have the unsettling twins, which is great. All the nods as they can. There's one to They Live, which has like a guy in his sunglasses showing a monster through the sunglasses, which was cool. Again, I think there are some very Ghostbuster-like stuff, with the
Yeah, but there needs to be some. I mean,
ghost vacuum, for example,
yeah,
right here.
that's a fair trope.
which I think is fine, not a big deal. And yeah,
Though I still think Luigi did it better.
and that's fair. But I thought it was cool. Cursed Recording is an interesting artifact that lets you copy instance and sorcery spells because again, they're just pushing the forks. We just keep pushing fork effects for as long as we can because they're silly. But look, Chainsaw is here, and Chainsaw through the television with the Texas Chainsaw iconic pose is kind of awesome. I'm
Yeah, I have no
I think
issues with it.
objectively this is cool as hell.
Yeah, it's fine.
And people are like, this is gonna kill Magic. Bruh,
I mean, I haven't seen that.
I've seen it, and it's silly,
All right.
and y'all are
Well,
killing
that's-
me.
Can we go through the
Silly.
list of like the 36 things that were already going to kill Magic?
We don't
Right.
have time. We don't have time. All right, I do want to call out this card. All right, I gotta call. This is one of the coolest damn cards I've seen in years. Come Back Wrong is amazing. This is one of the coolest damn spells I've seen, again, long time. Black and 2 generic mana, 3 mana for a rare sorcery. Destroy target creature. If a creature card is put into a graveyard this way, return it to the battlefield under your control, sack it at the beginning of your next end step. Nice Atraxa. I'll get one, thanks. I'll get my triggers, and then you'll not only not have that anymore, I'll get to get all those goodies too.
I get the benefit.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. And so many into the battlefield abilities these days to get the immediate value, to get rid of their thing, for you to get the value instead. Like, this is
Even
gorgeous.
creepier about this card is there's actually two versions, one that has the shadowy figure in the back and one that doesn't.
Or
And
does
I don't know
it?
if that's
Or
just because
does
the
it?
card has come back wrong
Yeah.
or if
I
it's
mean-
something that's just planted throughout the set that we don't know about yet.
Look, they did that Murders at Karlov Manor thing where they had, like, something was colored different between two versions, but they didn't mark it on the card anywhere else. It
Yeah,
was
that was annoying.
that was terrible. Please don't do that again. If that's what's happening here, just have an
No.
A and B after it, please.
These
I beg
actually
you.
have different set numbers. I've actually seen the two versions and they
Oh
had
my
two
God.
different numbers on them.
Thank you, Wizards, because Lord
Yeah.
Almighty, that was
Right.
horrible.
Come Back Wrong is also interesting because you can just target your own creature, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I can play Atraxa, attack with it, target my own Atraxa with Come Back Wrong, do it again.
Do it again. I love it. It's not destroy target creature your opponent controls. Like, even then,
Yeah.
they took away anything that could be, like, negative about this. And it's all upside, and it's all fun. And I don't care if we have a television border on some cards. They're going to be super freaking rad, which I thought was great. So, and probably should touch on the Wandering Rescuer. This is the sick mythic that they previewed for the set because the Wandering Emperor is leaving us. And this thing is coming to showcase instead for 2 white, 3 generic mana. It's a 3/4 mythic legendary human samurai noble. This is the Wandering Emperor without her spark, as it's broken spark as the water stamp there, the watermark. So for a 5 mana 3/4, she has Flash and Convoke and Double Strike and other tapped creatures you control have hexproof. So the cards to help cast her, you can't target them at that point if they're trying to kill one, for example. And it's a 3/4 flash double strike on top of it. This card is going to make big waves the instant it sees print.
Absolutely. Boros Convoke is already a player in Pioneer, and giving us another 5-drop Convoke creature, particularly one that is a counter spell, is very, very, very good.
Big game.
Yeah, I think it's a sweet card. I don't even know if it needs to be in something where we're trying to go super wide. Even just some type of white-based aggro can still play something like this.
Yeah.
And then just try to finish you on the key turn. You might even just put it into play on turn 3 or something, and then just try to go ham with it. Like, who knows?
Yeah, that card was just brilliant, and the different versions, the double exposure card version, the textured foil thing that they're doing is brilliant. And again, the idea that they're not sort of pulling punches is the way I would put it with a lot of the horror elements. I'm down for. I think it's brilliant.
The only thing I don't like is the black and white thing, because it makes it hard to identify colors and whatever, like when you're in the middle of the game, having to think and remember what colors things are or whatever is a little bit of a pain when we've done that previously, but
Yeah.
it does look neat.
I think they've learned from Innistrad Double Feature that you can't just grayscale and move on,
Yeah.
that it's got, like, it's not just black and white, it's got that red kind of stuff going on in the background to kind of border it and so on. That will at least help, which is nice. Moving on here, something I want to showcase, which I honestly am surprised it's never showed up before, and feel free, chat, to correct me if I am wrong. But at MagicCon Amsterdam, Elena Danner, who is an incredible artist, fantastic person, handed out special postcards with a time slot on them to everyone in their line. So instead of waiting in line, you return to their booth at the designated time to have your cards signed. Postcards handed out first come, first served basis. And it's got super cool Jeweled Lotus on the front. And on the back, it's got their schedule for hour 0 through hour 9, along with, the rules and things. But the idea of a line placeholder card, so you don't have to sit there for 5 hours, 6 hours, which does happen in real life for artists at giant shows like these, to say, look, go enjoy the con. Come back during this hour, you'll get your stuff signed, and you can go enjoy the rest of the con. I think this is brilliant, and it's not for every artist, because not every artist is going to have Elena Danner pull, for example. But for your bigger artists that are going to have these kind of issues and concerns, your John Avons of the world, for example, this is brilliant, and it's amazing. It's till now we've seen something like this.
Hey, first off, credit to Elena Danner for, in a fairly short period of time by Magic standards, like getting herself to the point where you got those kind of problems. So credit to her.
Absolutely.
But yeah, this is a really good system. I mean, we're reaching the point, again, Magic's dying or whatever, but we're reaching the point of huge numbers of people showing up to these events. Like, it's realistic to think that in Vegas, we might have 15, 16,000 Magic players show up to this thing, because we had 12,000 plus in Chicago back in February, right?
Right.
So the lines are only going to be getting longer. Even as they add more and more artists to get stuff signed, there's just the lines. There's a huge need. There's a huge want, right? So, yeah, you're going to need something. And this is about the cleanest system. Because like you're saying, the ability for you to go and still go do other things instead of just, all right, well, I'm not going to get to the front for another 3 hours, but I have to just stand here, right? Now you can go do something, come back 10 minutes before the hour or whatever, get back in line, and you're good to go. So, yeah, this is a good scenario for everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's fast pass, and it's good that we finally have that. Well done, good job to make it.
Yeah, just again, I love good ideas. This is a great idea. Take it, steal it, run with it. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Everybody go do this.
She made the wheel for us. Go enjoy it for all the artists who have issues like that, and the people who just kind of suffer. You know what I mean? Like, standing around for 6 hours can often be painful. You want to go to the bathroom,
if nothing else, it kills your feet, man.
Right? It messes with your feet. You can have you can mess your kind of whole weekend up because you had to stay in line the whole time. And I just love that.
Hey, and these artists learn from each other doing the tours and, all these events, because for a while we saw a lot from Arcade Post, right? And people adopted, oh, we can put our art on dice bags and tokens and whatever. And
Right.
now everybody's doing that, right? So yeah, I hope everybody picks up this stuff from Elena for sure.
Yeah, I mean, everything is a bettering process. Everything is iterative. These Magic Cons that we went to are not only iterative for people like Cool Stuff, who we go and we change sort of what we do as we do each show. The artists, I think, are getting used to the idea like this is 10,000 people in Amsterdam, sold out show. You got to prepare for those things, and I think they prepared in a really, really great way. Moving on here, really fun bit from @Azorius on Twitter. They unveiled a 4-month-long Magic project where they mainly looked through 5,000 pages of articles, and I assure you, they went through them really far back.
They went deep.
They went deep and wide. 1,602 strategy Magic articles to level up your game. The links will be in the show notes, or you can check it out at Azorius on Twitter. No, I'm not calling it X. And yeah, so this was brilliant. And Ruben's on there a few times. I'm on there a few times.
You're on there 5 times. I'm on there twice. Daquan's on there once.
Hey.
Yeah, which was really surprising to me.
I wrote an article series many, many years ago about how a deck is like a car and what that means, and what that could.
Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess what year A Deck is Like a Car came out?
Oh God.
I went back and looked, so I won't say.
This is from July 3rd.
Oh.
So today.
Oh.
2006.
Oh, I was going to say 07, so I wouldn't have been that far off. Okay.
So
2006.
Those articles can vote now, and smoke cigarettes. And yeah, it's been a minute. It's one of those where I was like, damn, did I write that?
Mine's from 2009. Yours is from 2006.
Right.
Power Dragons is from 2020. So like a reasonable recent effort.
Right.
As opposed to us who haven't done anything in a very long
time. And what's crazy is to even go back and look and realize how many different sites there were.
Oh
yeah. Absolutely.
And there's still others. Like I said, like the Pojo stuff, that whole period isn't even on there. And that goes back to 05. Right. I think 05 to like 2017. So yeah, there's even more. And people have been like recommending stuff to him and pointing him towards stuff. So this is probably going to be just an ever growing project as he finds more stuff to add to it. So this is a lot of work and just like a labor of love. Yeah. And I don't even think he had like a donation box or a Patreon or anything. This is just, he just did it, which is crazy, because
it's amazing.
I would totally donate something.
Incredible. And a bunch of books too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, true.
It's brilliant. So kudos to them for putting that together. Obviously, it's nice to be called out in ways that you can get called out, which is fun. And also know that like some of the stuff that we did make / write all those years ago isn't necessarily just going to be in the dustbin of history or whatever. Like it does still kind of matter in different ways.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah, there's the only thing I wish, because this is definitely like strategy, articles for the most part.
Right.
There are some crazy stories through the history of Magic that I would love to have seen included or something. Because like when I see Brain Burst, I think about all the crazy stuff that went down with like David Doust and like that whole thing. Like it's so unbelievable that if you try to tell those stories, like people are like, that really, like that. But just to have that somewhere so people could just read through the chronological like insanity of what that situation was would have been kind of cool. So unfortunately, some of that stuff just been lost over the years at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a very daunting and intimidating list. But if you are relatively new to Magic, but you've decided that this is who you are, this is a great place to bolster your education. This is graduate school, right? This is a lot. This is a lot of research and time and words and effort, but this is all there. So this is a wonderful tool for anyone who's thinking, this is who I want to be. This is what I want to do. I want to know about Magic. I want to study the game at the highest level. I want to go back and read the old books, read the old texts.
The sacred texts.
The sacred texts. And this is a great compendium of all of that stuff.
Also, for those of you listening or watching, it does mean we're not completely full of crap. Like people thought enough of us to include us in the annals of all this other amazing writing.
Yeah, right.
Listen, you ever wonder what I wrote like 18 years ago? You can go check that out.
If my claim to fame is that I have 2 of the 1,602 best Magic articles or most indelible Magic articles. Obviously not best. Like the best Magic articles are like tournament recaps and
Sure.
funny bits and stuff like that.
Right.
But most indelible, longest lasting lifespan articles. I'm happy with them.
Yeah, there's levels of articles in terms of like impact, culturally, between Who's the Beatdown, between Jeff Cunningham's stuff, like there's a gamut there, and it's always humbling and nice to be recognized. Moving on here to a few desperate ravings as we round out the show. The end of foil redemption is coming for Magic Online. You want to talk about an end of an era? You often, and if you don't know, if you collect a full set of anything current, recent, and standard on Magic Online, you can take those out of your account and get real Magic cards sent to your home. You have to pay a fee and some shipping costs, but that will get you a full set, foil or non-foil, to your home. Well, that's no longer going to be the case. Starting with Bloomborough, the foil set redemption will cease, and often why this is happening isn't random. It's often because the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Somebody has to take care of this. Someone has to manage this. Someone has to ship this and make sure nothing gets messed up. Someone has to do customer service for this when people get stuff messed up or packages or damaged or whatever. And so all of that just says either not enough people are doing it or just not enough people are doing it to handle the overhead of doing it.
Thinking about it, when I've bought collections and things that have rolled through, I can't even remember the last time I've seen a foil redemption set.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some regular sets, quite a few, but like almost maybe one in the last several years. So, I mean, granted, I'm one person in a small sample size, but like when you see so many of the regular ones versus almost none of the foil ones, I have to wonder how many of those are actually being redeemed.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know the numbers. We'll never know the numbers, but also I don't know how big of a deal this is. I know for the people who I know who used to do a ton of redeeming sets for like cash payout,
Right.
they never interacted with foils.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So-
they at one point I think Wizards recognized that there was an amount of churn of people getting complete sets, pulling complete sets out, getting sent to their house, and then pulling those and then selling those for or flipping those for profit. Where they started adding more charges to those sets from being redeemed and so on. And this is kind of sort of another, I think, extension of that. Like, look, we'll still give you the redeemable sets, but we're only going to do this because probably there's a very low volume, and B, you're kind of lucky we're still doing this anyway, honestly. And the only time I've ever seen a foil redemption set, it was when Wizards gave me one in like 2019 or something at
There you go.
Con event or whatever.
But there you go. Like,
so-
I don't see
Right.
many. You don't see very many. Like we've interacted with a ton of people in collections or whatever. So like you have to wonder how many are out there, and
Right.
they have to have them available in case somebody decides they want to redeem them. They have to be able. I'm sure there's a minimum number they feel they have to print, collate, put on hand, seal them up, and just have them. But let's say you're making a couple hundred available and only 2 are being redeemed. Like, is that worth the cost every set?
Right. And then you got a bunch of stuff left over and you got to
Yep.
handle that. And then, like, what do you do next time? Do you make, 10 and then all of a sudden there's 25 redemptions and then that's a problem? You know what I mean? All those things you just don't know and you have to prepare for it to printers in some variety. And it's a whole kind of mess in that regard. They also note here that they're going to change the future of premium digital foils in terms of how they look and or work on the client, which then kind of reminds you that this client is very old. This client is older by years than the articles that we just talked about having me posted on that big document.
Yep.
So it comes with a lot of sort of cruft, a lot of long-term, here's the different ways we've done it. Can we make them look interesting and cool and unique? They show a few examples of the way they've tried to change the look of digital cards on the client. And yeah, it's kind of a wild change, but changes are still afoot for a program that came out in 2002. So let's move on here. There was a bit about the DMCA breakup or roundup thing. I'd rather take a look at this bit about Windswept Heath because I thought it was neat. This came out of nowhere. This is some of the most inside baseball you'll ever see, which I think is brilliant. Of the fact that, like, wait a minute. Rob Alexander did all of the fetch lands, but one of them. Why is that? Why did Anthony S. Waters do Windswept Heath? And the pre-modern folks, the people who play pre-modern, started to kind of look into where this came from and how there is a Plains artwork from Rob Alexander that technically could be Windswept Heath, if you look at it that way, but it wasn't. It was Plains. And if you look at Daru Encampment, that was originally, that was from Anthony S. Waters. But the actual card itself was not this makeup, and you kind of learned that they swapped the art. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, they do this every once in a while. The famous example that I can think of was there was a 3 art swap that included Ivory Charm among other arts from Visions, and those got swapped 3 ways around. And yeah, this makes perfect sense. I think I remembered reading something about this like 15 years ago that they talked about this art swap.
Yeah, there actually was a old archive, a web archive bit that they pulled up here from the Wizards website that talked about Windswept Heath and mentioned that it was changed at one point. And so,
yeah, which is funny because as you were telling the story, I literally had the thought of didn't we know this?
Yeah, I thought we knew this.
This is kind of like we knew it, but we also didn't really talk about it.
We also didn't look at it. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you can kind of kick up and be like, hey, wait, that was really cool. And everyone kind of forgot about it. And it's kind of a weird thing. And it's a little inside baseball, but it's something that we can look at and go like, yeah, that's rad. And we know that. And we recognize that. And I think that is super, super cool.
Neat.
And with that, we turn the corner to the finisher. U.S. track and field stars Noah Lyles and Joe Fawn were spotted geeking out at the Olympic trials earlier this week, and Lyles even stepped up his nerd street cred, bringing both Blue Eyes White Dragon and all 5 pieces of Exodia to his race. What cards would you bring to your Olympic tryouts to get the right vibes, Ruben?
Well, there's only one sport I might have had a shot of being good at, and that is soccer. Not anymore, obviously, but back in the day, I could have seen slipping in a copy of Jester's Cap into my shin guard to try to get a hat trick.
Ooh. Power Dragon?
Well, I like the triple jump, and it lines up pretty well with Urza's Mine, Tower, Power Plant, obviously. But you can put that in your sock. And then with it being such a unique sport, and you have unique play patterns, of course, with the popular Tron and the power triple jumps, you both have legs.
They do. They definitely have legs. Look, I love watching water sports, diving, swimming, water polo, you name it, I like it. Water sports are to Summer Olympics as big creatures are to Magic for me because they are the absolute coolest. So I put Nadu in my trunks because I'd be guaranteed to win the event until I got banned soon after.
Yeah.
Hey, performance enhancement.
Demonstrate a
Too
loop.
good. Demonstrate a loop. I love it.
That's kind of what swimming is on the longer distances. It's a bunch of loops.
See, there you go. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, good to be here. Everybody, don't forget, use your codes, leave us good reviews and all that. And we actually made it through all that news.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ruben.
And a full hour. Hey, two thoughts. Send good vibes out in the world in 2 different ways. One is, if you are on X, tell Kai what he means to you, Kai Budde. At him and say, here is how you inspired me. And 2, tell someone in your life who you might not talk to constantly, who you might not see all the time, and tell them how they positively impacted your life. Because, you know, if the announcement that we got at the Pro Tour tells me anything, it's that you need to tell people how much they mean to you, and to honor people while they're alive. And, you know, everyone feels good when they're complimented, when they end up on best 1600 lists, and when they're covered on news shows, and anytime anyone has any amount of recognition, it feels good. So tell somebody in your life what they mean to you. And I appreciate you guys for being my co-hosts and for being my friends.
See, Ruben, you're one of the good ones, buddy.
Thanks.
And I appreciate that. All right, let's move on here to our final slide, or our power slide.
Our power slide.
I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. Use promo code MagicMikes. Our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us on our exclusive member Discord, live on twitch.tv at MagicMikes, live or taped on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at MagicMikesCast and on TikTok at MagicMikesCast, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody. And now we raid Magic Dad. 71, 50, 22, 522.
There's a lot of Magic Dads, apparently.
A lot of Magic Dads. All right.
There probably really are a lot of Magic Dads at this point.
I mean, yeah, at this point, these days. All right, you guys are great. We appreciate you all. We will see you here next week. Bye-bye.